Welcome to Hire Yourself. My name is Pete Gilfil, and I'm here with my business partner, Nat Truitt. We're all about helping people become entrepreneurs or become better business people. Good morning, Nat.
Hey, Pete, how are you doing today?
I am doing awesome. Yeah, I got to tell you, my daughter was a camp counselor.
Okay.
And she got back. And she had, I think they were like 11-year-old girls that she was the counselor, and she was telling me some fun stories about what these 11-year-old girls were doing and stuff like that. And I thought a little bit about that as a leader. She was running the cabin, and she's as much watching them as they're watching her, right? You know,
Right.
is she a good counselor? And she's going, are these good campers, right? And I thought a little bit what we do today in our podcast is talk about this idea of the relationship of being a franchise partner. And I say a partner, when you invest in a franchise, you're a partner with that franchisor. So it's a long-term partnership. So I thought we'd talk a little bit about this idea of the partnership, but more specifically from the side of the franchisor, because
Right.
they're looking for good partners. And sometimes people forget that. Now,
Yeah.
you know, you and I, our job as franchise consultants is to help get people in front of the line, right? So when we bring our candidate to the franchisor, they're kind of in the front of the line. They're treated, I believe, special because they've been kind of been prepped. And
It's kind of like when you go to Disney and you have the VIP pass.
Yeah, the Hopper Pass, right? We bring happiness through the Hopper Pass of franchising, right? So, but with that said, we can get them to the front of the line, but they have to realize that as they represent themselves in front of the franchisor, they're being watched the whole way. So I thought we'd talk a little bit about what candidates have to do when they show up with the franchisor to kind of be that partner they're looking for. Or simply put, you know, you got to be something. If you want to have a partnership, you got to bring something to the table. So let's talk a little bit about what that is. And so the first thing I think about, and I always tell my candidates this, is that, you know, when they get to start doing calls and webinars and all that kind of stuff with these franchisors, I mean, I have candidates that decide that they're going to show up 30 minutes late for a call.
Wow.
Or they're going to cancel a call 5 minutes before. And they don't really realize that, you know, the idea behind this is that we have to be punctual. We have to be on time from that standpoint for the meetings. And that represents. So if I've got somebody I'm talking to about becoming a partner and they show up 30 minutes late, or they cancel a call 5 minutes before I ruin my time, you know, basically cancel, I've lost productivity. Do you see that as one of the top characteristics that they have to bring forward?
Yeah. As you're talking, I just was thinking, you know, a lot of these things are common sense, but common sense isn't that common anymore. And, you know, we have to it's, you know, the golden rule too. It's do unto others as you do to want them to do to you. These guys are super busy. You know, we're all super busy on back-to-back phone calls. And, you know, if they lose 30 minutes or an hour out of their day, that's not great, right? So I think it is super important to be respectful and punctual. And if you do need to change a meeting or do something, try to do it, you know, 24 hours ahead or even longer, and always be in communication with the franchise developers.
And things happen, right? You know, somebody has to go to the emergency room, but in general, we're punctual. You know, because I think about it, this is almost like dating, right? If you showed up to a date 30 minutes late, right? You know, you're going to a movie and you show up 30 minutes late, the person goes, I'm not so sure about that.
Right.
So,
I know you and I are both football guys, so we're always like Lombardi time. It's like that, you know, you got to be 15 minutes early to your appointment, right?
I've instilled that with my kids. My kids have now a phobia when it comes to being late. So, so I've carried that forward with them. So very good. Yeah. What about this idea of that you can be on time, right? But you also have to participate. And I use this example of candidates when they go to a discovery day. Right?
Yeah.
Meet the team day. So they're at the end of the process. It's really more about the relationship. You're going to their corporate headquarters, meet the leadership team, meet support staff, right? And the idea is that I've had candidates that go to a discovery day and they sit in the back of the room and they don't participate. They're not engaged, right? And the franchisor never really gets to know them. Do you see that as one of the things that, you know, is this kind of this engagement?
Yeah, I think franchise systems are only as strong as the weakest link, right? And so they're looking for owners that are going to play full out and leave it all on the field. And, right from the beginning, being engaged in those initial phone calls, being engaged when you're going, to discovery day or meet the team day at the corporate headquarters, establishing rapport with other franchisees. It's kind of interesting because, part of the process is talking to other franchise owners in the system, right? And it's sometimes, I'll hear like, the franchise, if my candidate's talking to a franchise owner and the franchise owner actually calls back up to corporate and says, "Oh my gosh, I was talking to Sean and he's freaking awesome. We got to get him in here." You know what I mean? Yeah. And, unfortunately, vice versa, that can happen too. Like, I don't know, this guy was a complete dud. I don't think we want him. So it's like every touch point is very important.
Yeah, I think you got to be engaged and you got to be inquisitive. Again, back to that, it's like a first date, right? You got to be engaged, you got to be inquisitive, because it's a potential match. What about this idea, and I prepare my candidates when they go off to Discovery Day, meet the team day, is part of that engagement is develop a list of questions, right? To always have that list of questions, and they have to be a little bit more advanced, but I think it's about this being prepared, doing your homework. Like most people don't realize this, but franchisors will say, "Hey, we want you to watch this video or to read this article and stuff like that." And you'll find that the franchisors know if you haven't done it. So do you think that's a big part of this, is being prepared, having your questions, doing your homework?
Yes, I think it's actually not that much work when you actually boil it down. Sometimes, it might be 1 to 2, maybe 3 hours a week for a 6 to 10 week period, right? To kind of properly research. And, a lot of times the guys I'm working with are looking at, 3 or 4 brands. So it's really, if I'm the franchisor and somebody, doesn't have the interest to kind of go through the process properly, then I'm not going to be very impressed. Like these guys, I think what people don't realize is these franchises have hundreds, if not thousands of potential buyers every single month. And so they're going to spend their time with people that are most engaged, and the rest they can go pound sand for as far as they're concerned. They're going to spend time with the people interested.
Yeah, I've got franchise partners that I've talked to that they essentially, if somebody doesn't do their homework, they won't do the call, right? If you haven't done it, they'll say, "Hey, we can't do the call. You haven't done your homework." And so that's important. What about this idea of I always tell people that at some point in time, the franchisor is going to ask you, "Hey, why do you want to become a franchisee with us, or why do you want to partner with us?" And you'd be surprised, you'll hear this every once in a while. People, they'll go, "Well, I just want to make gobs of money," right? And the franchisor is looking for something that has a little bit more substance. Do you see that?
Yeah, I think as a potential franchise buyer, like there's kind of that continuum, right? I think at the beginning, it's kind of like speed dating. You're just trying to find out a little bit more information. But as you're going through the process and eliminating other brands, and, when you get down to where you narrowed it down to one, I think it's reasonable that you're kind of falling in love with the idea of owning that business, having those trucks, having that location. You can really visualize yourself running this business, right? And you're like literally like falling in love with it. And so I think what the franchisor at that point is, let's be honest, franchises kind of have big egos. So they're looking to see that the candidate is connected and honestly in love with their brand and wants to be a part of it long term, and everybody grow together and is excited to grow.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you were going to get engaged with somebody.
Right.
Yes, well, why do you want to marry me? They go, "Oh, I think you make a lot of money. That's why I want to, So I think it is, and they'll ask the question, like they'll in a discovery day or meet the team day, they'll ask everybody one at a time to stand up and tell us a little about yourself and why you want to become a XYZ franchisee, right? And so it has to have some substance behind it. One of the other areas that I think as the franchisors look at potential partners is this idea of being respectful. And what I mean by that is I've had candidates, they go on a call or they're in a meeting with the franchisor, and the franchisor will be explaining something, and then the candidate will say, "No, you're wrong. You don't know that." And literally they believe they know more about the business understand the business model
Right.
than the franchisor. And I think it's really important to be respectful. You may not agree with them, but you have to be respectful.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say by not being respectful that they were like, hang on, I've got to get my microwave popcorn out of the, like they're eating on the phone call and sitting in the lazy boy, sitting on the deck chair, just with the birds chirping and
Yeah.
just not really paying attention. But yeah, I think the franchisors, like, they're not going to be super interested in know-it-alls. I think that would be a fair statement.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, and I literally have had candidates that they tell the franchisor, no, you're wrong. You don't understand the business.
Right.
So that doesn't go very far. What about this idea of being honest, right? Honest with yourself and honest with them of who you really are and what you want to do, right? So some people they'll say what they think the franchisor wants them to hear, but I think you have to be honest as you look to go into a partnership with them, who you really are and what your expectations are. And that could be true with dating too, right? You got to be honest of kind of where you're going, what you want out of it.
I guess as you're saying that, I was kind of thinking about like being honest with what you are good at and what you enjoy to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like with senior care, my first franchise as the owner is very heavy on outbound sales, right?
Yep.
So going in the community, I used to call it like a run for mayor type business where you're kissing babies and shaking hands 40 hours a week, right? Because you have no customers. You have to go out and build relationships and do that. So you have to be honest with yourself. Will I do the activity it takes to be successful? And I think that that's one of the most important aspects to think about.
No, I think that's true, and it is absolutely right. So very good. I can't picture you kissing babies. I'm sorry.
Let me tell you, yeah.
So
at the beginning, whatever it takes.
All right,
all the chambers of commerce, it's everything all out for that first 3 years for sure.
Yeah, I think that's true with business. All right, very good. And then, one of the things that I think franchisors look for is that they are looking for people that are decision makers, right? As entrepreneurs, you have to be a decision maker. And sometimes as people go through the process, they can't make a decision, right? They can't, they go through the process and it's time to invest in the franchise and they just can't make the decision. And
right.
I believe to be a leader, to be an entrepreneur, you have to be able to make decisions. And it may be a decision not to do it, or may be a decision to do it, but you have to be able to make decisions because that's what's being a business owner. If you can't make decisions, it's a hard road to become a business owner.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And it's such a weight off your shoulders when you make a decision, and you figure it out. I mean, most guys you and I work with have been very successful in their corporate careers. And I feel like, if they've been successful with everything they've done up till now, they should be able to figure out anything that life brings to them at this point.
Yeah, you bring that leadership, that business acumen to a franchise, you follow the system.
Mm-hmm.
I think, again, this idea of people get all the way to the end of the process, they've done all their due diligence with investigating the franchise, and they can't make a call. And when they can't make a decision, then the franchisor knows that if you can't make a decision, that's a no decision. And so, very good. So you got to stand up and make the decision. So Nat, I got a funny story, right? So I had a candidate that went to a discovery day. Right, goes to a discovery day, and I always tell people is that we want to look the part of being a business owner, right? So this guy shows up to a discovery day. He shows up to a discovery day, physical at their corporate headquarters. He shows up in a Hawaiian shirt, shorts, and flip flops. And it wasn't a Maui Gym franchise, right? And I always tell people we want to look like we're future business people. Now, so most of the time it's business casual when we're in these meetings and stuff like that. But, I think Zoom is also had people slip a little bit, right? So people will show up to a virtual discovery day or a Zoom session in their baseball hat and a t-shirt, right?
Right.
Like, you have to represent. I know we're more casual today, but we still need to look like we're going to be a business owner representing that franchise because they're a brand, right? And if I'm showing up to meetings in flip flops and a Hawaiian shirt, that's not so good.
Yeah. Yeah, dress for success. I think it still applies, right? You're representing the brand ultimately.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, as we talk about this idea of becoming a franchise partner, it's a two-way street. And so as much as you're evaluating the franchisor, they're evaluating you. So I always encourage people to show up with who you think you need to be a good partner, and all the things we covered today.
If you play all out, leave it all on the field, you'll know if it's a good fit, if the franchise is a good fit for you, because you'll connect with the brands that kind of make sense and resonate with you.
Yeah, well, if you want a good partner, you got to bring something to the table, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's the idea of a partnership or relationship. So very good. All right, Nat, have a great week. Appreciate our talk today.
Thanks for listening to the Hire Yourself podcast. For more resources, check out our website at hireyourself.com. And remember to subscribe to this podcast to receive each episode. Please leave us a rating, and we'd love to hear your feedback or suggestions for topics.